Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday's language arts assignment for Mrs. Zabrowski's class. If you're in my first hour, fourth hour, or sixth hour, you're in the right place. You are going to get your reader's notebook and you're going to turn. So, last time we took notes on character. So, if you wrote notes about protagonist, antagonist, all of that, that's where you're going to take notes. So some of you it'll be on page 4 or 5, some of you it'll be on page 5 or 6, depending on where you were. And at the top today, you're going to write defining character traits, and then you're going to put the definition, the word definition, and the word explanation. So you're going to have 2 columns here, and then on your notes, you're going to have 2 columns here. And we're going to talk about what is a character trait. And this should be review from 6th grade, in that you're talking about when you're reading a story, a short story like Names or Nombres, or you're reading a novel like Harry Potter or Hunger Games. One of the questions you're often asked on a test or with language arts is, what is the character trait that you see with the protagonist or the antagonist or the main character? And what I want to talk about today is why does that matter, right? Why did teachers ask you? Why do we care? And one reason that good readers are good at reading, that they do well, that they like to read, that they keep reading, is that they can understand the character. Same reason you like to watch a Marvel movie, or the same reason your favorite TV show is your favorite TV show, because you like the characters and you like to see what happens to them. You care about them. So today in our notes, we're going to talk about what does that mean? What is a character trait? And then how do I show Mrs. Zabrowski I understand what those character traits are for each character? So the first thing we're going to write down is these 3 things about character traits. One, and you don't have to write word for word, you can highlight some of this, or just write some of the important things, like that the character traits, they're adjectives. They're either positive or negative, and they're descriptive words. So if you're going to say someone is kind, that's an adjective describing a character trait. If you're going to say that someone is thoughtful or that someone is cruel, all of those are character traits. They describe a person. And the other thing is, it's a constant part of who they are. It's not just how they're feeling that day, right? So that's going to get into emotions. But a character trait is something someone is day in and day out. So if someone is kind, not just that one time, or they're feeling nice is the emotion, kind is the character trait. Or if they're thoughtful, that's a character trait that they have. That doesn't mean character traits don't change. I use Harry Potter as this example, because there are 7 or 6 books, 7 movies, that you get to see him change over time. So like in the beginning, you wouldn't say Harry Potter was a confident character. You wouldn't give that as his character trait. But by the end, you might say he gradually learned, he matured, he overcame some obstacles, he became a confident character. And so what do I kind of mean by all this? Why is it important? It's because that's how you as the reader figure out what's going on in the story. And you don't have to put all of these down, but these are some examples of character traits versus like someone's emotion. So you might say someone is honest or polite or disrespectful or confident. All of those are character traits, something that someone is inside of themselves, who they inherently are. You find out about a character when you're reading by how the character acts towards other characters. What do they say? How do they behave? So if you're reading and a character is constantly berating their best friend, you might say, well, that character is disrespectful, because that's how they always act. And it's not an emotion. It's not that character is angry, because they might be angry just in that moment because something happened to them. They may not be angry all the time. So character traits is something that's traditionally sticks with you for a while. And then the difference for that, like we're going to talk about emotions and feelings in just a second. So emotions and feelings are how a character, or just even a person, feels moment to moment. So if I were to say, hey, you guys, on top of the notes, we're going to do 2 hours of homework. I have 3 stories for you to read and a paper to write. You might feel in the moment angry at Mrs. Zabrowski. That doesn't mean that you're angry at me all the time or that you're an angry person, but in that moment, that's the emotion that you feel. Same thing with if I said, hey, you guys, first person to, or everybody that gets the assignment right gets $500. You might then feel happy or excited about language arts class. That is an emotion you feel in the moment. It doesn't mean you're always excited or that you're always a happy person. It just means in that moment you feel, based on what happened, an emotion. If someone you like walks in the room and you feel anger or you're hurt or whatever those feelings are, that doesn't mean that's who you are. It just means that's how you feel in the moment. Emotions can change quickly. You can feel happy one minute and sad the next. It doesn't mean you're always a sad person or you're always a happy person. It doesn't mean that you can't feel both, right? And then when you're thinking about this one, you're going to consider, how do you react in the moment to certain things? If the word that I'm going to give you is describing how you might feel towards something based on something that happened, then maybe that's an emotion versus I always feel kind of content, or I'm a creative person. That is a character trait versus right now I'm feeling like coloring, I'm feeling creative for the moment. It doesn't necessarily you're always a creative person. And then last but not least in your notes today, oops, if I can get this box to move. I want you to put some examples, happy, sad, tired. Just because you're tired this morning because it's at 7:30 and you're doing your language arts homework doesn't mean you're always a tired person, right? If you're scared because you're at a haunted house, it doesn't mean you're always a scared person. And so my example was, at first Superman was excited to attend the Halloween dance, but he became suddenly disappointed when he didn't win the costume contest. It doesn't mean he's a disappointed person. It just means that's the emotion he feels right there. So like a new experience could mean that you're nervous in that moment. It doesn't mean you're a nervous person. Losing a loved one means you have grief, right? You can feel very sad in that moment, but it doesn't mean that you're always a sad person. So what I want you to take away from today in homework and on assignments for all the stories that we read from now throughout the whole year, one of the things that we'll always ask is, what is a character trait? What can you tell me that you learned about this character when you read the story? And so what I want you to steer away from is those emotions. Well, the character's happy, or the character's tired, or the character's worried. Well, they're probably not those things all the time, but you could say that they're generous. You could say that they're funny, honest. So those character traits, when I'm asking that, I'm asking for something that is part of their personality. It's part of who they are. I'm not asking for how they feel at the moment. So your assignment for today, and this is going to be linked in Schoology, and I'll show you where, you're going to first practice traits and emotions, and you're going to take all of these words that are in the blue, carefree, and you're going to decide, is carefree a trait or is that an emotion? Is angry a trait or is that an emotion? And the great thing is, since you guys have computers, if you're not sure what one of these words mean, you can always just go look it up. On the sheet that you get, you'll be able to move it over. So if you decide that brave is a trait, you would put it there. If you thought clumsy was an emotion, you would put it there. And so all of these words are either under a trait or an emotion. Then the next two things we're going to look at are positive or negative traits, or positive and negative kind of connotation. What is a word? Is it positive or negative? So these words are the ones you're going to put for positive and negative. So, and these words are a little harder. We're going to do some vocab words with character traits as we move on. But if you can't figure out what it is, if you don't know what the word enterprising means, type it in Google, look it up, and then you can decide, is that positive or negative? If you aren't sure if creative is positive or negative, think about it, look it up, and then go from there. And you'll do the same thing. So selfish, I would put under negative. It's a negative trait. No one wants to be described as selfish. You have to decide, is greedy positive or is it negative? And then you decide and you put it over there. So once all those words are over there, you'll complete the assignment and it will send to me. These notes, will be linked in underneath your Schoology. The assignment, so when you go to Schoology and you go to your class and you go down to week 3, you can just look on the side, there'll be a Wednesday folder for a Wednesday to-do list, and I will put this assignment underneath there. Let me look at a class that has it on there, sorry. So this word assignment where you have to go back and figure it out will be under Wednesday to-do list, and it's going to be titled Character Trait Assignment. That's going to be due today. It shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to do. When you click on it, it will bring it over here. There'll be this assignment. You'll click on it. It'll ask you to make a copy. You'll move those words to their proper box, and then you will submit that. So your homework will be to finish this assignment, and your notes should be on defining character traits and then finishing the assignment. And then the other thing that you need to have done by the time I see you next, whether it's Thursday or Friday, is to finish the names Nombre short story, because we're going to use that to talk about character traits with. Okay? If you have any questions or aren't sure how to do it, shoot me an email. I'll be around all day Wednesday. Make sure you take your attendance so you get credit for being here. And I can't wait to see you in class. All right, have a great day. Thanks.